Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Yellowstone. Today we're going to take our Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 tour of Yellowstone National Park. First, and some would say, including myself, greatest national park. It is a beautiful, beautiful place, full of all sorts of wonderful locations, all smack dab out west in, let's see, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. So the vast majority of it, if I remember correctly, is Wyoming. A little bit in Montana up above, a little bit of Idaho to the west. So the park is known, at least as of recently, as a super volcano. Most of the park, the majority of the park, is within this giant caldera that's tens, dozens of miles wide. It's still active, as evidenced by all the different things, the geysers, the hot springs, the mud pots down in the southern part of the park. And they say that it is also growing. It's rising in altitude or elevation every year by just a little bit. And so there is a good chance before too many generations pass that it could erupt, and that would be more than a little catastrophic. It would potentially kind of one of those ELE events, extinction level events, or so they say. Thankfully, it's still there for us to enjoy, and lots of people come to it every year, and it's no wonder. There's all sorts of wildlife. You have bison, wolves, gray wolves, I believe. You have black bear, grizzly bear. You have elk, lots of elk, and all sorts of wildlife to see beyond that. A lot of birds stop in Yellowstone on their migration. Yeah, it's just a beautiful place. You have this combination of just the scenic beauty of these mountains and these pristine valleys and meadows, and on top of that you have all the wildlife, which I'm hoping we might actually see some here. I don't know. I know in Africa, in Flight Simulator, there's lots of wildlife to see, so we'll see if there's anything to see here. One can hope. And of course there's also all the thermal features on the southwestern part of the park due to it being a giant caldera. So there's that. My wife and I, we've been here twice. The second time we took our kids with us, and that was in 2018. Our first trip was 2015. Both trips we've come in on this road. This is Route 14 in from Cody, Wyoming. You will want to keep in mind it's a long drive in. Planned for several hours. I'm trying to remember. I think it's about 3.5 hours from Cody to where we first stayed up in Mammoth. And we did most of that drive at night in the snow in a convertible Mustang with summer tires on it. So that was not the best idea. We weren't planning for snow. It was mid-September, so we didn't think there was going to be snow, but there was. And thankfully, I enjoy driving in snow. I grew up in New England, learned to drive in the winter there, and it's kind of fun for me. But it's a whole nother experience when you're in the dark on roads you don't know, winding through a mountain pass with pretty good drop-offs on one side. Yeah, so that's a little different. All right, so we just passed, when we went around that bend there, Pashaka Tepe. It's a ski resort, and right below us, right here, I'll swoop down a little bit. This is the actual east entrance to Yellowstone. As you can see, they don't quite have it built out yet, but it's this neat little wooden structure with kind of almost A-frame looking structure. Looks like, if you've ever seen a Stav church, it looks almost like it has that kind of feel. But now we are officially virtually in Yellowstone in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And we're pushing through here, and as you can see, the road now starts to hug the side of the mountain coming up, though it looks like it's hugging the mountain sideways, which is not how it is in real life, rest assured. I've driven it, it's not that sideways. It is curvy, it is windy, but it is not at a 45-degree angle. That would make it quite an interesting drive. Alright, so we're still making our way up. We're now at 7,700 feet, so we've gained quite a bit of elevation. We still have a little ways to go. We're headed over to Yellowstone Lake, and we'll pass through there. Yellowstone Lake is actually one of the places in the park that we spent very little time. We spent a good amount of time in the south part of the park, the southwest part, where all the thermal features are. We've spent a lot of time up in Mammoth and near Roosevelt campsite, and then the Lamar Valley, which is probably my favorite. It doesn't have some of the more flashy features that draw people, but it's just this stunning valley. But we'll talk more about that later when we get there. I'm probably going to be doing some fast forwarding here and there because there's just such a big park, and even at an airplane going 120 knots, it takes a while to explore it all. So we'll keep going. We'll fast forward a little bit, and I'll join you again once we get to the lake. So here we are, we're coming up on Yellowstone Lake. Really a pretty giant lake, and I think, if I recall correctly, it's kind of the center of the caldera. It's where it's most depressed. We just went through the pass, which was up at, I think, just about 8,000 feet. And boy, I do remember how harrowing it was going through that at night in a convertible in the winter, in snow. It wasn't the winter. It was technically, I guess it was still summer. And in snow, though. It felt like winter. Boy, it was fun. I have some fun photos from that. That was a neat trip. We made it in one piece, and we continued to descend, heading down. So we're now headed for the lake. As you can see, this is the lake. Now on the south side of the lake, there is a lot of thermal features, and we spent some time there. Again, as I said, I haven't really explored the lake much, not really at all, so I know very little about the lake. But we're going to keep moving, and then our first stop after the lake is going to be perhaps what makes Yellowstone most faithful, Old Faithful, and the Old Faithful Lodge, a place we've stayed twice. It's been really wonderful. I'll give you some tips in just a second. Also, as a note, I think I'm going to make this a two-part tour because it just will be too long otherwise. And you know, we like to give you bite-sized bits. Alright, we're now over the southwestern tip of Yellowstone Lake, and we're passing over the Grand Loop Road. It's that road that kind of loops all the way around the park. It's funny how many parks have a loop road name. And I'm curious about this. I'll have to look that up, this part of land that just juts out, and actually it doesn't go all the way. My guess is at one time it was the rail line that was here in the park, but I'm not 100% sure. It might have been something else. Anyway, we're going to continue down following the loop road, a Grand Loop Road, because it is a Grand Loop. It's quite long. Not sure how many miles total, but a lot. Several hours of driving, no doubt. So we'll come, and it winds along the west side of the lake most of the way here. And these white areas you see up here are some of the thermal features of the park. You've got a lot of hot pools, what are they called? Hot springs. There's the word. They're beautiful. A lot of them are rainbow colored, and they're deep blue. And the reason they're so blue is because they actually are very deep. The deepest of blues, they say, you see at about 40 feet of depth, but because of the heat, the water is refracted so much that it looks like it's very shallow. It's an optical illusion, but it is truly stunning. And so these white areas, nothing grows there, or very little grows there of any substantial vegetation. But what you do see are these beautiful pots and these beautiful little springs. So let me see. If you look straight down as we fly over, perhaps we will we'll see some of them. Let's see. Not really there. There's nothing noticeable there. Let's go around a little further down here. There's a few more. And there's a whole walking path down here that's really pretty. And some of the they're not quite geysers, but these pots are actually in the water. There you can see some of the blue there. You see several of them there. And they're right on the edge of the water, and so you can see it and watch it, and it's just stunning. It's beautiful. There's another one of those. My guess is there was a rail line at one time that went along there. But anyway, we are going to the granddaddy of them all, Old Faithful. We're headed that way now. So, yeah, see, there's the parking lot. If you want to go see those different thermal features, they're a fun little walk around. We did that with our family. It's not strenuous at all, and you get some beautiful views of the lake and some neat features. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. Now we're probably going to fast forward again, because this also is a bit of a hike. Alright, and here we go. We are descending into Old Faithful area, to the upper geyser basin, which has all sorts of geysers in addition to Old Faithful. And I am definitely curious. I really do hope they've rendered it out. As I get closer, I am woefully disappointed. So Old Faithful Inn is perhaps the most iconic of the inns in the entire national park system. It is this beautiful, unique structure, which is not what you see to your left. It was built, I believe, in 2 summers, or maybe just 1 summer. I believe it opened in 1903, and it was made with materials all locally, with almost all handmade too. Rock and what do they call those, ridge pines? It's beautiful. It's just a stunning piece of architecture, but it's not visible there. We've had the pleasure of staying there twice in what they call the Old House, and if you're booking, definitely try to get in the Old House, as long as you don't mind having shared bathrooms, because that's what they have there. Of course, in the world of coronavirus, who knows what that means, but yeah. So we are passing over right now the Firehole River. It gets its name presumably from all the steaming vents that you find throughout this area. It is very active. Old Faithful is called that because it erupts, runs roughly every hour. Right here where my nose is pointed, as you can see, they haven't actually made any of the geysers. Some of the cabins you can rent over there. But it's a beautiful thing to behold. It's very reliable. And there are other geysers as well that are pretty close to equally as reliable, though they don't erupt as often. And so there is this walking path. I'll see if you can see it better from above. It's actually a boardwalk that goes all around that area. It's really quite beautiful. It's a neat experience. You walk among all this unique stuff because it's on a volcano, and all this heat just has to find a way out, and it likes to heat up water, superheat water in fact, and then send it into the air. And so you have Old Faithful Geyser, Beehive Geyser is another one that we've seen erupt, and so many more. Some of them bubble, some of them shoot really high into the sky, like Beehive and Old Faithful. And it's a stunning view. It's something we don't certainly see every day unless you live in an area like that. There's also bison. We've seen bison out on the hill, on Geyser Hill there, which is this area right here. And there's lots of walking area. You do need to be really careful because you step off the path and you might go into a water feature. Even if it doesn't look that way, the ground is extremely fragile, in some places less than an inch thick. And so yeah, if you're not careful, it could result in a very bad day, perhaps your last. So something just to keep in mind. And there is also a path down here that you can walk, a trail that takes you through some of the other different features in the Upper Geyser Basin. There's another geyser here. It's actually the biggest one. I don't remember what it's called. I have it here. No, don't have it. But there's many geysers. You have Grand Geyser, Twilight Geyser. As we fly, everywhere where you see this white here in Flight Simulator, there is a lot of volcanic activity, or byproducts of volcanic activity. So you have Twilight Geyser, Grand Geyser, Prismatic Pool, Bayou Geyser, Grotto Geyser, Bottomless Pit, Morning Glory Pool, and as we come up a little further, we're going to go to my favorite spot. It's called Grand Prismatic Pool. And it is both grand, and you can see in just a second why it's called prismatic. So we're going to go up on this, fly over this little ridge, which you can actually hike up, and if you want to get the best view, I would highly recommend doing this little hike. We're going to see what Flight Simulator has to say about that. See if it does it justice at all. Oh, and sorry, we have one more line, one more ridge to go here. Or possibly more, but I think it's only one. Yeah, because there's a parking lot there. If you can get parking there, it's great. It's a short walk. I think it's 7/10 of a mile. It's a little strenuous, but nothing that most people can't do. And there it is, right there, Grand Prismatic Pool. That certainly doesn't do it justice, but it is beautiful all the same. Let's look down there as we pass over it. There it is, Grand Prismatic Pool. I remember seeing a picture of that from above, from an airplane, taken probably 30 years ago now in a National Geographic, and I was amazed. I so wanted to go and see it, and thankfully, by God's grace, we got to, I've been able to see it twice, once with just Bryn and I, and once with our family. You can see it is just, it's this unique feature, and it's a pool, and water is actually streaming all throughout this, not just in that little pool area, and it's pretty breathtaking. And as you can see, actually right below me is the path. So I thought we'd do one last pass over Grand Prismatic Pool, this time right at sunset, just to see the beauty of the park and the pool one last time. Alright, I've got one last view for you all, and that's Yellowstone at night in Flight Simulator 2020. All that reflection you can see down there. Well, I can see a little bit on my plane, and the rest is Firehole River, which we've been flying along as we've explored Grand Prismatic Pool, and then of course Old Faithful. And actually, I've got to say, that's probably my favorite, if not my absolute favorite, one of my favorites. Favorite photos is of Old Faithful going off with the Milky Way in the background at night. It's just such a cool picture, and it's one of my favorites. And there's Firehole River. We're going over it now. Just difference between Microsoft Flight Simulator and real life: there is not all these city lights illuminating the road. I don't believe there are any lights except in parking areas. So it's much more pristine than this. But apart from that, it's probably pretty close to what you would see about an hour after sunset. You can see the moon, and interestingly, that's about, it's a given moon, I think they call that. That's about what the moon was the first time we were there in September. I got some neat shots of that with some high-level clouds that were decorated in light. Alright, so we're going to Old Faithful. See if it'll erupt. I don't think it's going to. But I did want to touch on a couple more things about reservations, specifically in Yellowstone. So, as of right now, they open up at the May 1st, a year prior to the next summer season. So if you wanted to book and try to get your reservation for May 1st, 2022, anytime after, you need to go in and book right around May 1st, 2021. So summer 2022, you want to book as close to May 1st, 2021 as possible. Alright, and we just passed over Old Faithful. We'll do a little loop. But if for some reason you don't book, the first time we had it, we booked just a couple months out because it was kind of an impromptu trip, a little bit of one. And so what we did there is we just called a couple times a day, actually, to try to get reservations. So we're just passing over Old Faithful. It's not illuminated, which is how it is actually at night. This is the Firehole River right here that we're passing over. And you just get that beautiful, beautiful view of the night sky. I will say that Flight Simulator really renders skies amazingly well. They're just beautiful and breathtaking. But I will leave that for later, so we will see you guys again, hopefully shortly. We always appreciate it if you like, subscribe, comment, and especially if you want to see our second half of Yellowstone. Make sure to take a look. Be looking out for it. We'll try to get that up pretty quick for you guys, maybe even tomorrow. And we hope you enjoy. Take care. Have a wonderful night.